Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to the deep dive.
Hey there.
Our mission, like always, is to take the source material you've shared and, pull out the most interesting bits, the surprising stuff.
Yep, the need-to-know nuggets.
Exactly. And today, we're diving into info tied specifically to June 4th.
Right. We've got a whole mix here from the material history, national days, birthdays.
Should be interesting. Think of this as your shortcut to knowing what's what for June 4th, straight from the stuff you sent over.
Let's do it. Where do we start on this day?
Yeah, let's jump into the historical facts the sources highlight for June 4th.
Okay, so one that jumps out is way back in 1784, Lyon, France.
What happened?
Marie Thibault. She became the first woman to fly in a free flight balloon.
Wow, okay. A historical first. And the material, it has some really weird details about that, right?
It does. It notes she was like the only woman allowed on these flights at first. And they started charging people after her flight.
Okay. And wasn't there something about her husband and the pilot?
Yeah, the text mentions that this flight happened apparently after her husband caught her on the ground with the pilot.
Oh my goodness.
And then when they're up there, she supposedly asks, "What happens if you untie this rope?"
You're kidding. What happened then?
Well, maybe not surprisingly, the source says it led immediately to a new rule.
Which was?
No pet porcupine.
Porcupine. Why on earth? Okay, that's something. Moving on from potentially spiky flight companions.
Definitely.
The material also mentions 1812, Louisiana Territory.
Right, it got renamed. Became the Missouri Territory.
And the source had a little joke about that.
Yeah, it kind of commented on the potential for confusion, saying when legislators were asked how to make it more confusing, the Missouri folks apparently said, "Show me."
Huh. Classic. Okay, now this one's really interesting. 1886, Detroit.
Henry Ford.
Yes, driving the first Ford car down Bagley Street. And the source details are just great, like someone yelling, "Chevy's better."
Yeah, the material includes that. And it adds this weird bit about the heckler going to the levee, but the levee was not only dry, but it didn't rhyme.
What does that even mean? Okay.
I know, right? It also says neighbors were yelling, "Hey, slow down."
Uh-huh.
Which the text then connects to, claiming he won all the drag races that day.
All the drag races in that first car.
Yeah.
Okay, and didn't it say he ended up pushing it later?
Yeah. Later that afternoon, the text says he had to push the car down Bagley Street.
Right, and that supposedly inspired.
The gas gauge, or so the material claims. Quite the origin story.
Definitely. And the speeding ticket.
Oh yeah, the text finishes by saying he somehow got a ticket for going 3 miles per hour in a 2 zone.
Only Henry Ford, I guess. All right, shifting to something a bit more, globally significant, 1942.
Yep. June 4th, 1942, the Battle of Midway started. World War II.
A key event. Did the source add anything extra?
Just a couple of odd little personal notes, really. Like admitting they don't remember where the battle was fought and questioning how anyone knew it was the midway point of the war while it was actually happening.
Interesting asides to find in there.
Yep.
Okay, last one on the history list. 1967. Pop culture.
The Monkees. They won an Emmy. Outstanding comedy series.
Right.
And the text has this perspective that today's comedies did evolve from the Monkees.
That's a bold claim from the material.
Okay, say the least.
So that's the on this day stuff from the sources. Let's switch gears to what today is, according to the material you shared. Lots of national days.
Yeah, quite a list here. National Hug Your Cat Day.
Yep.
National Clean Beauty Day. National Safe Day. National Cognac Day.
Wow.
National Cheese Day. And National Old Maids Day.
That is quite the collection. From cats to cognac to, we'll come back to one of those.
Definitely eclectic.
The material also notes Father's Day is a week from Sunday.
Right, and we're exactly 1 month from the 4th of July. Calendar check.
Okay, now birthdays. And the material has some, let's say, unique commentary here.
It certainly does. First up, Angelina Jolie, turning 50 today.
Okay.
The text notes her adopted kids, calls her the Womb Raider.
Ooh. Okay.
And adds this really weird line about people lining up for a birthday spanking.
Yikes. That's memorable.
Yeah.
Also 50, Russell Brand.
Yep. The material adds the note free for the time being.
Oof.
And it reflects on his marriage to Katy Perry, asking, what was either of them thinking? Claims they were married around 5 minutes, then corrects it to 2 years, give or take 2 years.
The source commentary is definitely colorful. Noah Wiley.
He's 54 today, Dr. Carter from ER, although the text calls the show The Pit.
The Pit. Oh,
It adds minus the deductible, of course.
gotcha. Then there's Andrea Jagger, former tennis player.
Turning 60, according to the material. And it says they liked her because her name was easy to pronounce, apparently.
That's the reason. Okay.
Seems so. El DeBarge, 64 today.
Right.
And the source helpfully clarifies, in case you didn't know, El DeBarge is Spanish for the DeBarge.
Uh-huh. Okay. Good to know. That's some deep linguistic analysis from the source.
Right. And finally, Michelle Phillips, original Mamas and the Papas.
Turning 81.
Yep. And the text jokes, she's closer now to being one of the great grandmamas and grandpapas.
Okay, so a full list there with plenty of flavor from the source material.
Definitely.
Now, the material actually gives us more detail on a couple of those today is things. Let's dive into Hug Your Cat Day first, based on what the source says.
Okay, so the text starts by stating 75% of cat owners are women.
Interesting stat.
And then it offers these feline taming tips it attributes to a vet, Lore Hogg, from Texas A&M.
All right, what are the tips according to the source?
Tip 1, don't chase tail. Basically, don't pursue aggressively.
Makes sense.
Dr. Hogg is quoted in the material saying, let the cat decide when it wants to be petted. It will let you know.
Okay. Tip 2?
Skip scent. Strong smells, like cologne or cigarettes, can apparently freak out a feline. That's the quote.
Good to know. Avoid the Axe body spray around mittens. What's tip 3?
Bring treats. Simple enough. If the cat smells goodies, it'll want to be near you.
Standard cat logic.
But here's the really weird part in the material. It also says, bring flowers for the owner.
Flowers? For the owner. How does that help with the cat?
Well, the text explains it by saying cats are really sensitive to their owner's emotions. So the logic is, if mama's happy, kitty's happy.
Wow. Okay, that's an interesting connection the material draws there. Flowers for the owner equals happy cat. Got it. Tip 4?
Invade her territory. The idea presented is to find the cat's favorite spot and, the surf a pillow with all the fur and just hang out there. The text says the cat will eventually join you.
And then?
It suggests scratching gently, neck behind the ears, and waiting for its mistress to join you.
Its mistress? Okay. So quite the detailed guide to cat cuddling, straight from the source material.
Pretty specific stuff. But the material also gave a lot of detail on another one, National Old Maids Day.
Ah, yes. Okay, what did the source have to say about that one?
Well, first, it defines an old maid based on age and marital status.
Right.
And it specifically attributes this definition, get this, to a survey by Lennox.
Lennox, the China company.
The very same, according to the text.
Okay, so what's the Lennox China company definition of an old maid, according to this source?
If a woman isn't married by age 20 yet, she's an old maid. That's what the survey in the material concluded.
28. Wow. And there were stats.
Oh, yeah. The material says the survey found 78% of Americans think a woman should be married by 28, or, quote, it's just too late.
78%. That seems high. What about for men?
Less pressure, according to the survey. Only 66% of Americans think men should say I do by 28.
Okay, still a majority, but a noticeable difference.
And it adds that 28% of Americans think guys should actually wait until 29.
Right, so nearly a third think men should wait longer. What about for women waiting until 29?
Much lower. The material highlights that only 14% think a woman should wait that long.
Only 14% versus 28% for men.
Yeah, it's fascinating how this specific section in the material uses that survey data from a China company to pin down this term and these very specific age expectations and drawing such a clear line between men and women.
It really makes you think about where these ideas come from, or at least how they're presented in this particular source.
Definitely. It's a very specific perspective laid out in the text.
Okay, and that pretty much wraps up our deep dive into the source material for June 4th. We went from balloon flights with porcupine rules to territory renaming, Henry Ford's interesting day, Midway, the monkeys.
A whole bunch of birthdays with some wild descriptions.
And then those detailed looks at hugging your cat and the Lennox surveys taken Old Maids Day.
Quite the range. Our goal, as always, was just to pull out the most salient, the most interesting points from the info you provided.
Presenting it just as it appeared in the text, quirks and all. So for you listening, we've distilled the core facts and insights from your sources. You've got the straightforward history, but also those, almost bizarre little details of porcupines, the dry levee.
Right, and then you have that very specific, very dated-sounding survey data about marriage age. It's quite a mix.
It is. So maybe the final thought to leave you with, drawing only from what we looked at today, is about that mix itself. When you see a historical event described with such weird specifics, alongside survey data defining social roles based on age and gender.
Yeah.
What does that specific combination, just from this one source covering this one day, tell you about how information gets packaged, how details strange or statistical get attached to dates and ideas? It makes you wonder about the stories behind the facts presented in any source, doesn't it?
That's a great question to ponder. How does the source itself frame our understanding? Something to think about.